In my entire life, I have never met a Scientologist who was against abortion. And a world without war is one of the stated aims of the Church of Scientology. So how is it that a group of people that is pro-choice and anti-war almost always votes Republican in major elections? There is one major reason that explains this. Let's discuss it. Hi everyone, welcome back to Growing Up in Scientology. Just a moment ago I said I had never known a Scientologist who was against abortion. But in Dianetics, which was the first book that L. Ron Hubbard wrote on the subject that eventually became Scientology, it says in that book that attempted abortions, so failed abortion attempts, were essentially the root cause of all evil in society. So if that's what he said in that book, how can I be saying I've never known a Scientologist who was against abortion? So just a quick clarification on that. In Dianetics, L. Ron Hubbard was still saying human beings only lived one lifetime. He hadn't yet jumped over to the religion angle of humans being immortal spiritual beings. In Dianetics, he talks about everything that's wrong with human beings as stemming from these painful incidents that happened to them in the womb. And that abortion, specifically failed abortion attempts, amounted to the worst psychic damage you could enact upon an unborn child, and therefore was, and I'm giving the dumbed down version, pretty much the worst thing you could possibly do. And someone could make the argument that anybody who actually believed in Dianetics would have to be anti-abortion. But the way this works is, once he jumped over to the religion angle, once he started saying we were immortal spiritual beings who have been around for trillennia, he stopped talking about things that happened in the womb as having really almost any detrimental effect upon human beings at all. He said, you've been having terrible things happening to you for trillions of years. Nobody gives a damn anymore about what happened to you in the womb this lifetime. So just a little clarification on that. And also, this video is not meant to imply anything about whether people should be voting for the Democrats or for the Republicans. It makes no difference whatsoever. This video is not intended to be remotely political. I just thought it might be interesting to understand the reason behind this particular behavior, where we see the members of the Church of Scientology predominantly supporting Republican candidates, regardless of their personal political beliefs. Individually, Scientologists are all over the political spectrum. So then why do almost all of them vote Republican? The answer lies in their hatred for psychiatry. Scientologists' objection to psychiatry is not just related to the over-medication of children. The Church of Scientology pretends that this is one of their biggest beefs with psychiatry because they think it plays well with the public. But it's really not. Nor is their objection to psychiatry related to abuse of patients in institutions or abuse of the elderly, or the fact that Scientologists believe that individual psychiatrists, and I guess therefore the psychiatric profession as a whole, masterminded the Holocaust in Nazi Germany and masterminded the 9/11 terror attacks. I'm not kidding about that. You can Google that and see what Scientology has to say about that through their anti-psychiatry front group called CCHR, or Citizens Commission for Human Rights. These are other beefs Scientology claims to have with psychiatry, but these are also not the real reasons. Scientology's real objection to psychiatry has to do with the fact that L. Ron Hubbard said that psychiatry, and so kind of all psychiatrists, came from the planet Farsec billions of years ago. By the way, it turns out astronomers are still looking for that one. Have not found planet Farsec yet, even though Hubbard told them where it was. Still looking. And ever since, this twisted pseudoscience was cooked up on planet Farsec billions of years ago, these evil psychiatrists in partnership with evil politicians have been using the principles and methods of psychiatry to enslave planetary populations with their drugs and twisted counseling procedures ever since. I cover this in a little bit more detail on another video on this channel. That video is called The Matrix, Scientology, and Disconnection. You might want to watch that if you haven't already seen it. I'll include a link down below. So then fast forward just a little bit of time, and Hubbard says that the evil psychiatrists, again, partnering up with the evil politicians, and that's where you hear about Xenu. Xenu was one of these evil politicians. Xenu and the Psychs were responsible for rounding up billions of people in other solar systems that composed the Galactic Federation, rounding all those guys up, bringing them here to this rocky planet that we call Earth, blowing them all up in volcanoes with hydrogen bombs, thereby creating a massive population of sick, semi-conscious beings floating around the planet, that once the human body form evolved on this planet, those beings then attached themselves to each body by the thousands, and these parasitic beings that are attached to all of our bodies by the thousands or millions or whatever are the sole cause of everything that's wrong with us physically, spiritually, mentally, and emotionally. Now, you don't learn all of this on day one of walking into a Church of Scientology, but once you become aware of what Scientology's actual beliefs and positions are, this is what Scientologists believe. So this gives some context for Scientologists' hatred of psychiatry. Now you add on top of that the fact that if somebody walks into a Church of Scientology and they have a history of seeing a psychiatrist and taking psychiatric medication, that person is called an illegal pre-clear, an illegal PC. And that person is, with some minor exceptions, not allowed to get any Scientology auditing for the remainder of their life. So a Scientologist sees psychiatry as being a direct impediment to the Church of Scientology. So a Scientologist sees every person who ends up on a psychiatric medication as someone Scientology cannot save. So you might still be asking yourself, that's great, what the hell does this have to do with Republicans? And the answer is nothing really. It has to do with the Democrats. Democratic candidates, particularly at the state and national level, tend to have platforms that include some version of mental health care for all. And the vast majority of Scientologists that I have known are two-issue voters. The first issue, is this candidate friendly to Scientology or not? The second issue, does this candidate support mental health care for all specifically? Or does the candidate support any healthcare bills that, if passed, would increase funding for mental health care initiatives or increase funding for psychiatry in any way? These are the only two things that the Church of Scientology cares about when telling its members who to vote for. They know that legally they cannot just come straight out and say, this is who we want you to vote for. But they can and do give their members notes on which candidates support legislation that would increase funding for psychiatry or would increase access to mental health care in general, and which candidates are against such legislation. In fact, in my experience, the Church of Scientology cares much more about this one point of who is for bills that would expand access to mental health care than they do care about whether someone is friendly to Scientology or not. Because the fact that Scientology is not really on the radar of 99.9% of politicians. They can't really put politicians into a bucket of being for or against Scientology usually, but you can put almost any politician into a bucket of whether they support legislation that increases access to mental health care. Now, of course, not all Scientologists vote Republican, and for those that do, not all of them only vote Republican for the reasons that I've given in this video. But the reasons I've given here are the reasons why, aside from an individual Scientologist's personal political beliefs about anything, the vast majority of them vote Republican due to this one issue of Republicans tend not to have platforms that include healthcare for all and therefore mental health care for all. And the Democratic candidates tend to have platforms that do include those issues. And the Church of Scientology makes sure that all the Scientologists know about it. And this does apply to public Scientologists, but it does apply even more so to the staff members and even more so to the Sea Org members. That's all for now. I said a few weeks ago I was going to start doing these really short, one question, one answer videos. And ever since then, I was just too lazy to actually start doing it. I'm going to try to put them up daily, but we'll see what happens. All right, that's it for now. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right inside here. If you have subscribed or not,